All right, so now that we're at Morris, you know what's coming up next.
Yeah.
We've got to talk about it.
Sure.
What you think about this as a comic book reader.
Got it.
In this movie, we see the Mandarin again.
Yes.
The Mandarin that we saw in Iron Man 2?
3. Yeah.
3?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And I guess this is Marvel's attempt at kind of rewriting their cinema history. What did you think about how the Mandarin showed up in this movie and how that was treated? Does it fix things for you?
Well, so
okay, I guess we should say before like you go into it, here's like what you need to have fixed, right? Because in Iron Man 3, the Mandarin was handled very poorly from a comic book reader's eyes because it was a very stereotypical Asian character in the comics. And instead of fixing that and just having a good Asian character in the comics, what they decided to do was this. At first, the Mandarin is, or the Ten Rings is associated with Middle Eastern terrorists. And then in Iron Man 3, the Mandarin is a British actor hired to play a part for a European bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, does this fix all of that for you?
And let's just stop and talk about how crazy this is. Like, I can't, like, people will, you can write an essay on this, and I will say this, before I get started, I will say this. Shout out to Marvel and Disney for understanding that the Mandarin character from the comics was racist as everything, and understanding that what that character is going to be a problem, and understanding that they had to do a much better job in representing Asian and Chinese cultures, right? And so shout out to them for understanding to do that. So let's go back all the way back to Iron Man 1, okay? Mm-hmm. In Iron Man 1, the Ten Rings were the group that kidnapped Tony Stark, right?
Right.
And we learned that they did it for as Obadiah Stane. He hired them to kidnap Tony, right? Because he wanted to kill him so he could take over the company. Now, there's some questions that's going to come up because was that the Ten Rings we have now, or was that a different Ten Rings? We don't know, and I think we should just ignore that for right now because they'll go solve that problem.
My guess is that's the Ten Rings we have now.
Yeah, it could be, but like if Obadiah Stane hired them, then he had associations with Shang-Chi's father. So there's a lot going on. And listen, Marvel's already probably thinking about how they can go back and talk about the connections between Iron Man and Shang-Chi, but we'll get to that. So then in Iron Man 3, what's his face? The main villain, what's his face? That's very specific. The main villain for Iron Man 3 hires what's his name again? The actor? I know his name is Trevor, but what's
Ben Kingsley.
Yes, they hired Ben Kingsley to play a Mandarin. Now, you have to go back to when the Iron Man 3 trailers came out. Ben Kingsley was the Mandarin, and everybody said, you can't do this. You can't have, first of all, you can't have the Mandarin in the movie because he's racist. And second, you can't have Ben Kingsley, a white actor from Britain, playing an Asian man.
By the way, Ben Kingsley is Indian.
Oh,
he is actually Asian, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Ben Kingsley is not his birth name, but he is definitely, he passes for white.
Yeah, but there's so many problems with that. But then we find out that in Iron Man 3, it was a hedge, it was a fake out because he was an actor, right? He was, and I think Iron Man 3 was trying to do what Shang-Chi was trying to do, which is fix it, but he couldn't. Now, I don't know whose idea it was to bring Ben Kingsley into Shang-Chi and then bring all this back up and then finally close the loop. Mm-hmm. That was a risky move, and I think it paid off because Ben Kingsley's a great actor. He was really fun to watch,
right?
And I mean, they talk about it. They say it's like the Shang-Chi's father says, you know, someone stole my idea, they stole my identity, and used it to trick Americans. And they called him the Mandarin. They called him an orange. And he was saying, look at what they've done to me. Look at what old American comics did to Asian culture, right? And they put it out on the table. And once it's out on the table, you can look at it and understand, you know what, that was a problem. And I think they did a pretty good job. I think they finally figured out how to deal with this quote unquote Mandarin problem, and now it's done. In the comics, it's still lingering forever. It's going to be there forever. But in the movies, they've kind of settled it, and I think it's good. I think they did a pretty good job. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, it wasn't really a problem for me as a not comic book reader because I didn't have all of the background that you did.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this was really for you guys, not
Mm-hmm.
for us casual Marvel movie watchers.
I agree. And
For us, it was just a good kind of a good callback, really, to Iron Man 3 more than anything.